Without question, the best and most fascinating game of a delicious wildcard weekend. The Niners at the Cowboys Sunday afternoon on CBS. Great players all over the field. An even matchup, and there's oodles of history. Niners, Cowboys in the postseason. That is a historic treat for football fans who understand the epic and deep, well-embedded nature of this rivalry and the crazy games they played against each other in the 80s and the 90s in the playoffs. Now, you know, I've been screaming about Dallas making a Super Bowl run all season. Heck, all preseason. But the Niners defense is fantastic. I kind of don't like this matchup at all for the Dallas Cowboys. And I've been saying that San Francisco, the one team you don't want to face in the first round of the postseason, and the Cowboys have them. Nick Bosa is a star. DeMeco Ryans has done a brilliant job coaching up this defense. They bloody you. And while Jimmy G is obviously relatively weak, they have surrounded him with studs on offense. Deebo Samuel has been one of the most unstoppable players in the entire league on offense this year. Kyle Shanahan uses Deebo as a receiver, a runner, heck, even threw a touchdown last week. Deebo Samuel is unstoppable. George Kittle is a stud. Mitchell runs brilliantly. The offensive line is great, led by time to shine favorite Trent Williams. Of course, it's all about Jimmy G. And Garoppolo talked to the press yesterday about the human side for him this year, as Kyle Shanahan, of course, tried to kill him off. The Stafford trade talks, the trade up for Trey Lance. Jimmy G, somehow still standing. He was playing really well until the Titans disaster a few weeks ago, but sake of fairness, he came up clutch in the second half in overtime to save the season for the Niners last week. Now, not going to be easy, obviously, against Micah Parsons and that Dallas defense. They are excellent on defense. They can create turnovers. But I think Kyle Shanahan will try and protect Jimmy. Look, if you get into a shootout with Mike McCarthy's offense, you're dead. You can certainly, if you're the Cowboys, you could throw on the San Francisco corners. That's the one weakness when you look at that defense for San Francisco. Dak had a terrific season. CeeDee Lamb is built for this. But I'm worried about the run game. I know Dallas can run, but it's been so inconsistent down the stretch of the season. And Mike McCarthy coaching in-game in a spot like this, it's always a question mark. This game has everything you want. It's rare that I love a team with a major quarterback disadvantage. But the Niners are just so strong everywhere else. This has a true classic written all over it. Mike Evans knows this is Tom Brady's time to shine. Brady, of course, is the greatest of all time. He already won a Super Bowl, as Evans referenced, for the Buccaneers last year. So it's not just hanging on the old Patriots days. And obviously, he's the GOAT. He carries teams. He changes everything. And Brady is going to use that greatest football mind to put the Bucs at the end of the day in position to win in the postseason like he's done throughout his brilliant career. But if you think about it, everything's coming up Brady, right? It's January. Everything after Week 18 is coming up Brady. If you needed to avoid San Francisco, check. Leonard Fournette needed to return to practice, check. Levante David back to practice, check. And they have Philly in round number 1. Credit the Eagles for overachieving and making me look wrong, but I still don't believe in the Eagles. Look, they didn't beat a playoff team all year. All year. I have doubted the Bucs as a Super Bowl caliber team all season. I still don't think they're a Super Bowl caliber team. Defense isn't the same. Chris Godwin is out. The competition this year in the NFC is better than last year. But Brady is still Brady. And playing the Eagles is akin to getting a first-round bye. This one is going to be a bloodbath. I truly appreciate Ben Roethlisberger's deadpan humor. It's actually brilliant. The Steelers were not a playoff-quality team for the vast majority of the season. And if you're doing a power ranking, I mean, they're 14 out of 14. And while the point spread is only 12.5 and not 20, as Ben mentioned, make no mistake, if Kansas City was favored by 20, I'd still pick the Chiefs. Remember, while Ben is cooked, he's still a first ballot Hall of Famer with a couple of Lombardis. And we've documented, of course, how the Steelers haven't won a playoff game in 6 years. They have no winning playoff experience throughout this roster outside of Ben. The Chiefs, as Roethlisberger referenced, they're the Chiefs. And oh, by the way, Kansas City destroyed the Steelers by 16 points in Week 16. 16 points. Kansas City doesn't lose at home. Come on. And the defensive line is going to smother the Steelers' offensive line, and Ben's not going to outgun Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Chiefs got a huge break facing the Steelers. KC beat the Broncos, but didn't look great. Plus, Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill got nicked up. In theory, they were ripe to be picked off. But as it turns out, the Steelers will be the perfect opponents. They are not worthy of being in the dance. Everyone knows it, starting with Big Ben. Let's shine on some football on this Thursday, and we have some gigantic news from Houston that broke just a few hours ago as the Houston Texans have fired head coach David Culley after just one season. Now, there's a lot that goes into this in terms of the news. Number one, we knew this was possible. They basically only gave him a 2-year guarantee. David Culley, before last year, was never interviewed to be a head coach in the NFL. David Culley was terrible as an in-game coach, though he deserved credit for this. Davis Mills was the second-best rookie quarterback this past year in the National Football League, and Mills has a bright future. But there's a bigger picture issue here when you look at the Houston Texans. Cal McNair is a horrendous owner. The fact that he still employs Jack Easterby, and Jack Easterby is in his ear, it goes against sanity, it goes against logic, it goes against how you build a culture and an organization. The Texans are an absolute disaster, and David Culley, by all accounts, is a wonderful man and a great person, and he deserved better. This was a situation like in Curb Your Enthusiasm a lifetime ago when they cast Larry David in the producers, so at the end of the day, the show would go off Broadway. They knew this was going to be a long year with everything going on with Deshaun Watson, and basically they hired him to tank. And David Culley, the person, the assistant coach, deserved so much better than the Houston Texans. And, you know, it's a bad look for the NFL. David Culley, African-American. Right now, with Brian Flores getting fired, we're talking about one African-American coach in the National Football League, Mike Tomlin. That is just absolutely unacceptable. I do think that Nick Caserio is a smart general manager, and I do think that he's going to hire either Brian Flores or Josh McDaniels or Gerard Mayo, someone with Patriot ties, but this just stinks. Not that David Culley should keep his job, but he was set up to be there for 1 year, to be a punching bag, to make sure the Texans couldn't win games. Now he's out. As a human, he deserved so much better. The Texans are a complete and utter disaster. Staying in the AFC South, the Indianapolis Colts brass isn't exactly going all in on Carson Wentz after Indy failed to make the postseason. How about this? Chris Ballard today at his season-ending news conference echoed what Frank Reich said on Monday in his season-ending news conference. Neither one would commit to Carson Wentz as the Colts starting quarterback in 2022. Wow. Considering they gave up all that in terms of draft capital and paid him all that money, and then for Carson to give him this, and Chris Ballard said, look, we got our derrieres kicked against Jacksonville, and he didn't use the word derriere. I understand it, and it's awful optics. Jim Irsay released a statement yesterday. He's livid. You could make the case, considering the Colts were in a winning-or-in scenario, and they were favored by more than 2 touchdowns, and they lost by double digits. And if you watched the game, and I know that you did on CBS, they weren't even close. Winning or in scenario. Remember what we were all saying about the Colts second half of the season after the Saturday night game against New England? They're the team you don't want to face in the first round of the playoffs in the AFC. That was one of the worst losses by a team in the final week of the season in NFL history. Factoring in the point spread, how they played, what was at stake, and the Colts are going to go back to the drawing board at the quarterback position, and it's real simple. They think they could find someone better than Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz, stunningly, is not going to be there. The optics of the Eagles having their first-round pick, and the Eagles are in the playoffs and the Colts are not, that is dreadful. Moving back to Wild Card Weekend, Cliff Kingsbury thinks Kyler Murray is going to play the best game of his career Monday night against the Rams. Color me skeptical. I do like the fact that Kingsbury challenged Murray and said he expects Murray to play the best game of his career. I just don't trust Murray to do that in LA against Aaron Donald without DeAndre Hopkins. And I think that Kingsbury and Murray, these guys have struggled against the Rams. They've struggled down the stretch of the season. I think Arizona had a strong first 3 quarters of the campaign, but there are no football reasons for me to believe in Cliff or Kyler with the bright lights on in their first postseason games as a quarterback and as a head coach. Flip side of that game, Rams head coach Sean McVay says he's not concerned with Matthew Stafford's lack of postseason success. I mean, I'm going to stress the positive here and agree with McVay on Stafford. Now, I thought that what happened against the Niners, if they lost that game, would be too demoralizing to recover from. But I do think that they can beat the Cardinals. And I think that Stafford, by winning the division, the Cardinals struggling down the stretch, you could see him light up the defensive backfield for, obviously, Arizona. Akers being back is a big deal. It's a huge spot for Stafford. Losing that game against San Francisco changes everything in terms of the esteem. And we'll see what the results from Wild Card Weekend, but it could mean they end up facing, if they win, the Green Bay Packers in round 2 instead of Championship Sunday. But I might be last man standing, but I still believe in Matthew Stafford in a big spot for Sean McVay. We've got the quotes of Wild Card Weekend so far, and it comes from Bengals offensive coordinator Brian Callahan, who says Joe Burrow wants to take your freaking soul. Oh, I freaking love it. I mean, that is an unbelievable quote, and it's just absolutely perfect. I had Carson Palmer on my SiriusXM radio show today. He thinks Burrow is a stud. He thinks the Raiders on a short week, there's a great opportunity for Burrow to just demoralize them early. I can't wait to see our guy Joe Burrow steal the soul of the Raiders early and often Saturday afternoon in Cincy. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell for more videos.